This is Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, a podcast and radio program presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan.
Driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
And now, here he is, your host, Jim Ervin.
Baby, I'm home.
Well, thank you so much, Parker, and welcome, everybody. I'm Jim Ervin, and this is Time Signatures. Sometimes things just happen and everything falls into place as if it's always belonged there, and for all the right reasons. Today's guest is a perfect example of that. He began his journey traveling from his native Norway to California, where he quickly found his place as an incredibly talented guitarist. He played first with Terry Hanck, then with Charlie Musselwhite, and he's been working the last 15 years with Rick Estrin as part of his band, the Nightcats. Oh, and did I mention that he also started what has become one of the most requested and appreciated recording facilities across the country? That work has allowed him to record with the likes of Finest Tasby, Curtis Salgado, Alabama Mike, Tommy Castro, and Nick Moss, just for a start. But he's also been a key supporter of the Little Village Foundation, the nonprofit run by fellow musician Jim Pugh. Ladies and gentlemen, there's lots to talk about here. I'm pleased to welcome Christoffer Kid Andersen to Time Signatures. How are you, man?
Hey, Jim, I'm doing great. I'm very impressed. You saved me a lot of time there with that introduction.
Well, I'm trying to get to the story, see? So I figure if I do a good introduction, then it makes it a little easier for you.
I think that is the story. I don't know what to say now, but I am very impressed. You didn't get anything wrong.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And listen, kid, we have to start somewhere, and I would love to hear about your start in music. Where did this journey begin for you, sir?
Oh, well, let's see. We're like way back. Like I started. Well, I mean, I think it's somewhere when I was like 8 or 9. I made a makeshift drum kit at home out of my sister's collection of bottle caps and some cassette those boxes that contain a bunch of cassettes. I made a little drum set, and I used to fantasize that I was playing in my school cafeteria with Kiss.
Nice.
That's the first remotely musical thing I can remember doing or thinking about. I at the time, this is like 1991, and everybody was playing guitar for a brief time, about early 90s. I'm from a really small town. Like, people in Norway haven't even heard of the town I'm from. It's
wow.
That's
pretty damn small.
It's not like 1,500 people. It's not technically it might be a little village, technically. So there's it's a very small community, and my neighbor and second cousin, kind of like my older brother, Motts. He was about 4 or 5 years older than me, and he was, for that brief time when all the 15 and 16-year-old kids were all playing guitar. They all got electric guitars, for about a year or something. And out of all those guys, he was like the best one in town. There was a guy named Rodney who lived in the next actual town over, who was, rumored at being like really good. But my cousin, he was kind of the main guy, and he taught everybody to play. And I was only 11 at the time, but he told me, hey, if you'll get a guitar, I'll teach you how to play. So
nice.
I did. I got one for my 11th birthday, and I just I don't know. I just took to it, I guess, pretty quickly, that was in January 1991, and by I think it was by March or April. The one tune there was a couple of tunes that everybody played. One of them was "Day Tripper" by the Beatles,
Oh yeah.
and my cousin was, as the local authority on how to play guitar, he was the one who taught everybody to play it, and he, he showed it to everybody, something like this here. This is how he would play it. So that's how everybody learned to play Day Tripper. And after playing for a couple of months, it must have been maybe about March or April, I was listening to the song and playing along, and I started going, I think it's actually. So he had two notes wrong. He started with, but I've discovered it was, and then
Okay.
I brought that up to him next time I saw him, and he got all quiet, and after that like he hardly ever played again, and all the other kids stopped playing guitar. I was the only one left playing guitar.
Wow.
But um, so that's when that was this there was a spark, and we were listening to it's a small town in Norway. We weren't the most advanced folks. We were a little behind it. you know Even though this was 1991,
Sure.
we were listening to like the Beatles, Elvis, Chuck Berry, and the Shadows. The same stuff that really our parents were listening to. I don't, I mean, I did hear about Nirvana and some Metallica and some other bands, but that's what kind of like what the that's what everybody played was the the old stuff, and then
Right on.
that's how I got started, and it's a fun thing to do, and I just started getting putting bands together, and since the place is so there ain't nothing there, um I mean, like, you can't find a drummer, you got to make one. So I just so my buddy, who was a year younger than me, his name was Daglish. He was I was 11, he was 10, and it was uh it was rumored and confirmed that his mother she was the cleaning lady at this one church. It's a small town, but they got like 5 different churches there, and and there was rumored to be a Gretsch drum kit in one of the broom closets there, and she went and got it, and then we had a drum kit, and I just he wasn't a particularly musically gifted fellow, so I just had to kind of learn to play drums so I could teach him. Yeah,
Sure. Sure.
and that was the first little group I had. It was just me and a drummer.
Okay. Well, I'd like to skip ahead just a little bit to that
Please.
serendipitous meeting with Terry Hanck when you were about 21. Now, as I
Oh yeah.
understand it, you met Terry over there in Europe, and you decided to come to the United States shortly thereafter. Talk about that meeting and what caused you to make that trip to come over here.
Well, that around the time I was 12, 13, I saw Robert Cray on TV playing a blues from this nearby blues festival, and I remember my reaction was, I've heard of blues, and I go, that's blues. It was just like 10 seconds of boom, 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 and seeing Richard Cousins on bass and Robert on the guitar, and I goes, that's blues. That's the coolest shit I've ever heard. So I became, interested in blues. I met a man named Morton Umlead, who was a fantastic blues guitar player, um, in a few different Norwegian bands, and he thought he saw talent in me, and he offered to be my guitar teacher. And so at age 12, I started learning about blues. going back to like he would give me a stack of albums every lesson, and T-Bone Walker, BB King, Otis Rush. I mean, I got the best education in classic blues. Uh, uh, I was so fortunate, and I mean, I might be one of the very rare people on the planet today, who actually heard like Stormy Monday by T-Bone Walker before I heard the Allman Brothers version.
Oh, wow.
Like all the Led Zeppelin, all the blues songs Led Zeppelin did, I didn't listen to any like rock until I was I don't know, my later in my teens. I'd heard I Struck by Howling Wolf first, which is really cool because most people go the other way. They discover the blues through like British rock acts and whatnot. Anyway, that's how I got into the blues. And being so in love with the music, and as I'm sure once you get that obsession with the blues. I mean, I'm not sure if it's like this for every kind of music, but to me, it was my whole life has revolved fully around it ever since, and so the first one big thing is I want to go to where that music is from. I want
Sure.
to be experience that culture. I want to I just to me that's just like, well, this is what I want to do. That's where I need to be. So it was a pretty natural thing for me to I always wanted to move to America, and because of the music. And then as I got a little older, I got another very lucky break, and they started this blues club in Oslo, and it's the only club I know in Norway who had live blues 7 nights a week.
Oh, wow.
And me and a bass player named Billy Triani from New York City, and this drummer, we became the house band, and what that meant is that I mean, they got to have 365 blues shows a year. They're going to run out of Norwegian blues acts pretty quick. So, so they started, the club would, they would fly over American artists that we would back up for like a week or two. And then, on to the next one. I played with, the first one I played with was Nappy Brown.
Oh, man.
On his 70th birthday. I was 19. We played with Nappy Brown, Homesick James, the funky
Man.
guitar player. He was, I think he was maybe around 96, and I played with him. Jimmy Dawkins, Byler Smith, Willie Big Ice Smith,
Man.
and it was just Jimmy Lee Robinson. And guys like Gary Primich too, and Bill Sims, who was in the Heritage Blues Orchestra, and I did that for a few years. It's just like the greatest. Another real life part to the education that I just so lucky to get that gig.
Yeah, no kidding.
And almost pretty much all of these guys, when I would play with them, I'd kind of be like, so listen, man, if you need a guitar player in America, I'm I'll move there. I was trying to get a gig and make my way to the the promised land. So that there was a couple of things that didn't materialize, but then I met Terry Hanck. He was Terry's wife is Norwegian. Her name's Vera, and
Okay.
so he was in Norway on Christmas, spending Christmas with her family after they got married. And looking around for some gigs, something to do. He connected with the Muddy Waters Blues Club, which it was called in Oslo. and we played with him. We backed him up for about a week or two.
Wow.
Right around 2000, the last gig we played in Norway, that was the New Year's Eve, not the big one, but the 2000 to 2001. And
Okay.
and I was 20, I just turned 21 around that time. And the day after New Year's 2001, Terry called me. I really like Terry. Yeah, I mean, I really like. We had a good vibe. He played a lot of different stuff, all stuff I liked. I mean, just I love the idea of playing with a sax player. I really, and he was just a really good guy. Like, it's I felt like if I were to go to America to try and be a musician, you know if a guy like Terry brought me over, I would feel pretty comfortable because he just has that vibe, and my parents liked him. So
That's cool. Yeah.
he had some plans for a guitar player. He was in between guitar players. Mike Shermer had just left his band, but there was another guy named Rick Welter who was supposed to come out from Salt Lake City to join Terry Hanck's band right at this time. So when I told Terry, hey man, I want to go to California, if you need a guitar player, I'm there. I'll move. And and Terry says, "Oh man, that'd be cool, but I got this guy coming out. I just got a new guitar player." Um, so, anyways, New Year's Eve, we played together. The next day, Terry calls me, and this fellow Rick Welter, excellent guitar player, he used to be in the Dynatones. He had while we were in Norway, he had some tragic event in his family. I think his ex-wife committed suicide. It's
Oh
horrible.
boy.
It's probably the, but because of this, he had to stay in Salt Lake City, take care of their daughter. I mean, his life got turned upside down, so he wasn't coming out to California
Sure.
and Terry Hanck band. So, but Terry calls me and he goes, "Hey man, turns out I do need a guitar player. Were you serious?" And I go, "Yes, sir, very much." So, um, yeah, Terry. A couple of months later, March 7th, 2001, flew first time on a plane actually. I flew to San Francisco, and Terry picked me up, and he got me this little room for rent that was right down the street from him, and yeah, that was it. I played with him for 4 years. We went all over,
Wow.
California, the South. Yeah, and we're still in touch. In touch. I mean, we're like family. Really, he lives in Florida, but I've recorded all his albums. We've been, he's the closest I have to family in this continent. He's just just a great guy, man. I love Terry to death, and so even eventually I moved on to other bands, but we've always been, very closely connected, and
Yeah.
just I'm not in his touring band anymore, but I tell you what, when Terry's old Ford van finally died a few years ago, man, I love that thing so much. I was thinking, I was looking into maybe having somebody like airlift it into my backyard, so I could just sit in it
Just for old time's sake, huh?
just for old time's sake. I mean, that man. I mean, it was like in the back seat of that, just out touring, playing the blues in America, and like it's still you're all nestled in and safe. I don't think there's a happier place for me on the planet than that man. So
Well, kid, you definitely got yourself firmly ensconced in the United States in the blues scene. You become recognized as a high-end guitarist, and you played it, as you said, with Terry for like 4 years. But that
yeah,
ultimately led you to going to work with Charlie Musselwhite, didn't it?
yes, it did. Oh, I lived in Santa Cruz. And I was, in music, I guess. I mean, it's all, you know, uh, nobody took out an ad or anything. There was it's still just, make connections, well, it's just, well, I'm not a schmoozer. I'm not a brown noser. I don't have a card or stake out the lobby at the Blues Music Awards just to meet people. But you know, but I love music. I love to play, and I love people, and I make friends. And one of the first people I met over here that I just instantly had this connection with, like he's just like he's like we've been friends forever. Was June Core, the drummer, uh,
Okay.
and I had seen him and play with Little Charlie and the Nightcats in Oslo in 1998. And he was a great drummer. Sometimes he played with Terry. And just the first time I met June, we were like, I don't know, I just felt like I had a best friend instantly. And we were very good friends. And he uh he started playing in Charlie's band at some point. Um, he's been with the band well over 20 years now, and
Wow.
and I would go. People go in and out of bands, and they so they had an opening. I think it was Kirk Fletcher had been the guitar player for a while,
Sure.
and he got offered a gig with the Fabulous Thunderbirds. Um, so this would be like 2003, 2004. Yeah,
Okay.
2003, 2004. Um, and Charlie had asked his band, is there anybody you can think of that, who would be good for the gig? And June told him about me. And it really, that was really it. I had the only time I'd met Charlie was again at the Noton Blues Festival in Norway in 1993 when I was 13 years old. And I have his autograph and everything that I got from him back
How
then.
cool is that?
you know, yeah, I don't think he remembers it. um, but and he was, I mean, Charlie was like, that was a big deal. I mean, uh, you know, Terry, I love Terry and what Terry does. But the cool thing about one of the cool things about Charlie is that a lot of my friends already were harmonica players in Norway, and you get a gig like that with a guy that people actually have heard of, like he was a legend already then. So
Sure.
that was a that was a anytime something happened where I could feel like I could really impress my old friends back in Norway, that was like I've done something now. So
Yeah.
yeah, so June recommended me. I think Charlie called me and he's like, yeah, you want to do it? I mean, yeah, yeah. We didn't play it. I mean, we just talked for a little bit, and he asked if I had like a CD or anything where he could hear me play, and I go, yeah, and I had just made one, my first solo CD, so it's another thing. So I just mailed him that, and really didn't hear anything more about it. Like, uh, it was kind of a bummer when Terry found out that I was leaving the band, uh, because uh, we played the Biscuits and Blues in San Francisco,
Hmm.
and this lady who was there, a friend of ours, really has the her finger on the pulse of everything that's happening in the in the local and international blues world. Come up, she walked up to Terry during the break and said, "Well, I'm sorry to hear you're losing your guitar player."
Oh no.
Yeah,
Oh.
seriously. Like I said, the only like I talked to Charlie on the phone. I sent him my CD. I hadn't heard anything more. I didn't even know I had the gig. I didn't think. So I,
Oh man.
Yeah. So that was, then Terry came, hey, well, I just heard it. And I was like, oh, man.
The proverbial fart in church, right?
Yeah.
Man.
But I mean, you know what? He was going to find out. I mean, I kind of felt like I kind of feel like I felt like I found out at the time too, because I hadn't done a single gig. I hadn't met Charlie. I hadn't played with him, but evidently I had the gig. So, and as it turns out,
Wow.
I did. And well, maybe she saved me the anguish of trying to figure out how to tell Terry myself.
Yeah. Yeah. But man, that's crazy.
Well,
I'm going to go ahead and turn the page here for a second. As we
all right.
record this interview, you're about to celebrate your 20 years with Greaseland Studios. How did this project come together for you ultimately? And you've recorded some of the biggest names in the blues as we talked about earlier, haven't you?
Yeah, that's certainly a lot of my heroes and favorites, and of the ones who are left. Well, I mean, to me, it's pretty natural. It's um, music is my thing. I mean, I play guitar, but I play other instruments too, and I'm just, that's, it's kind of what I'm about, and it's actually amazing to me, even to this day, how many like professional musicians who don't have the capability or it's to like make it just a decent recording of themselves at home, like people think you have to have all this stuff in this huge facility to like to do a recording. I mean, which is you absolutely do not.
Right.
um you just gotta know what you want to sound like, and then you know and hey, just figure out how to put that in on a recording. um
Now, is this just
and,
something that was self-taught, trial
yeah,
and error?
in some ways. I mean, I mean, I didn't go to no school or anything for it, or
Okay.
take lessons, but um I always wanted to, I mean, I make music. I first time I went in the recording studio, um, I mean, my favorite, most of my learning, most of everything music I heard, learned about, is from recorded music, listening to albums, especially in Norway. And then I would just, in the, and I just love the experience of, especially like, a lot of the old blues records. Um, uh, you know, from the 50s and 60s, and Muddy's old records, and Howlin' Wolf, because I mean,
Right.
I put those on as a kid in Norway, like 13 years old, and you hear Spoonful. I mean, it's transformative. I mean, it
Yes.
takes you on a, it's like Jumanji. you know
I get it, man. I totally get it.
Yeah, you're just in this other world, and you just have all these images of what was it like, and it just conjures up this stuff, and there was just real magic, in those records particularly, and it's there's also something that I would hear a lot of newer stuff, and everything's kind of like just a little more generic and safe and streamlined, and just kind of very matter of factly. I mean, yeah, they recorded. It sounds like the band playing, but where's that? Where those? Where all the ghosts? Where all the mysterious stuff that you can't quite make out, and
Right.
all this ambient stuff that just the atmosphere. It's and also I mean, I would go in the studio sometimes with Terry and with other bands, and us probably most musicians will tell you that the first few times they went in the studio, it was kind of underwhelming, or disappointing. I mean, they would nothing sounds everything just sounds way less exciting than you want it to. It's just it's usually a disappointment for you know for people and you know, it's just stuff will always often sound like very, very dull, and a lot of that I think is just, you know, I mean, some of my, you know, some of my favorite records, they're from the, you know, earlier days of recording, you know, and there was no it wasn't streamlined how everything should sound. Oh, this is the proper way to EQ a bass guitar. You know, they didn't have none of that. You know, you know, you have to pan you know, the guitars left and right, and you have to have the bass, the drums in the center. I mean, they were just people just going for it and you know, fucking around and experimenting, and also, you know, and you know, some of these guys that recorded for the, you know, for the first time, it's you know, it was just you know, that I don't, you know, we're missing that vibe in most modern new recordings. You know, every time I go into the studio, any studio, like all the engineers you meet, you know, they never heard of Willie Johnson. You know, they never,
Right.
they're not into any of this thing. If I try and explain the sounds I'm hearing, they have no point of reference. You know, because I mean, because
But clearly the sound that Greaseland has become known for resonates with the people you're recording with. I mean,
oh yeah.
I
Well,
mean, I can
I
tell you
think this
that.
is an experience that very many musicians have, you know, and it's you know, I'm like a conduit because you know, I didn't start having, I'm not an engineer. I mean, I do engineering, but it all comes from just wanting to make music, you know.
Well, and clearly you found a way to do it in such a way that you have a sound that when people hear something that you record from Greaseland, they know that it came from your studio because
Thank
that's
you.
what you're known for.
I hope so. I mean, that's eventually you know, it permeates because well, basically, yeah, to boil it down, I think you know, what separates me, to me, you like, you know, all the equipment, the location, it doesn't matter. The most important thing is that, you know, do you have a vision? You know, can you hear in your head? Do you have, you know, do you have a goal in mind? Do you hear the album, the record before it's been made? You know, and if you have a vision and you can hear that, then you can start, you know, you know, then you can start creating it and making it reality. Um, and you know, this is, I think, uh, you know, people I worked with. I mean, it's, you know, they're all people, and most musicians, they do have a vision, you know, but there's, you know, so many instances they don't. If they have an engineer, a studio, somebody who's not, you know, from a different background or whatever, which they usually will be, you know, they don't know how to communicate their vision. They don't know how to put it in words that this other person can understand.
Understood. Yes.
Even when I play with Terry, as well, sometimes when I'm the producer, I'm also a conduit between you know, between the artist or songwriter and the band. You know, because I mean, a lot of musicians just don't know how to communicate with each other. You know, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
not, I'm not talking about just being dysfunctional, which of course we are too, but but you know, I always thought, you know, I started out, you know, teaching myself to play drums so I could teach my drummer how to be a
Right. Right.
drummer. Same thing with bass. I was always very, if I hear something that perks my ear up, I just want, okay, I want to know what that is and I want to know how to do it. You know, I don't have to be, I just want to know, you know, what are these, you know, these building blocks. So, but, you know, a lot of people don't do that. I mean, Terry Hanck, for instance, I've, you know, done many records with him and he's a great example of a guy. He has a vision, but he doesn't have the means to communicate it a lot of times to the other guys in terms that mean anything to them, that makes sense. A lot of times Terry will go, I think the drums should be like, and he will literally go like this. And they go, and he's not even making a sound, but I can see, I
He's
look
just
at him,
conveying it to you somehow. Yeah.
yeah, but I can look at Terry and I can see this record is literally playing in his head right now. You know, is it he doesn't, I got to help him uh get these guys to come close to what he's, and
Yes,
that
sir.
involves a bit of actual like mind reading. 'Cause-
Yep. No, I completely get it. I'm a photographer, and many times I see the shot before I take it. And when I get it, it's that eureka moment. And I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's hard to explain to somebody else, but
Yeah,
you're a visionary. That's what you are. You're a
yeah,
visionary, and you know
yeah,
how to bring that to fruition. And that, I think, is what really separates you from a lot of the other people that own studios out there. But I want to turn the page, kid,
yeah,
because I'm dying to talk to you about Little Village. Now, you made it clear you've done some recordings with you and your wife. You're not here to sell, you're here to tell. And I want to help you. I want to
yeah. Well,
promote that.
you asked me before if I had anything, to
Right.
promote and stuff, and
Yeah.
that's like honestly my uh, uh, uh I'm I can say I'm that I'm pretty good at a few things, and there are many things I'm terrible at, and many things I don't want anything to do with at all.
Right. Right. Well, talk.
And when it comes to music, I have, in a way, uh, I think what I've done is I've created like a cocoon, like a bubble where I can, exist in here in this space in my studio, which is also, my house. I mean, there's
Yeah.
and I can pretend like it's, you know, like it's 1969 or whatever. I mean, I. The thing is, when you go out in the world and you see, you know, all the stuff you got to do to promote your stuff, and you got to mail CDs, and you got to talk to people and
Right.
make phone calls and connections and all this stuff that I mean, it makes me shiver with with, because it's just like I love the music, I love the creative part of it, and I've kind of and pretty successfully designed my life to where I don't want to worry about any of that. I do the stuff that I love, and I can sit here and I can pretend like, um, you know, like it's important, and to a few people it is, and
I think to a lot of people it is.
you have to believe, you can't be an artist, you can't, be a visionary or a, do something creative unless you like, you got to think it matters,
Yes,
because
sir.
and you know I when you go out there and you see what really happens to our music after, when you put it out in the world, you see how much music there is out there and how little most of it does. It's depressing.
Yeah.
I don't want uh I don't need to be involved in the activities that's gonna make me disillusioned and kill my enthusiasm for the for the music and the art, because that's
Yeah.
that's really all I care about. So I'm kind of like anti promotion. Even when me and Lisa made our CD, I talked to Jim and I was like, well, I made an album, she made an album, and I was like, let's what if we just put them together, two albums on one disc, and it's the most bizarre format that nobody, as far as I know, has ever done before. How do you alphabetize it? how do you categorize it? It's I mean, it's just like it's just filled with really like self-sabotage.
Well, kid, I'd like to ask you, if I may, please. I'd love to hear how you got together with Jim Pugh. You referenced him a minute ago, and
Yes.
you have done some phenomenal work with the Little Village Foundation. But tell me about that introduction. How did things come together for you and Jim?
Oh man. Well, I mean, it is yeah, it is true. It was very what's that word? Serendipitous.
Yes,
Uh,
indeed.
I think well, one thing is Jim Pugh and Terry Hanck go way back, way back. Uh,
Okay.
David Knowing shows. So I actually played with Jim on some shows with Terry, and back when he was with Robert Cray's keyboard player for about 25 years. Everybody knew him from there. He was on many records that I loved. I knew who he was before I moved to the States. Um, I met Terry, and we actually did some stuff with Jim, and I was I was very excited to meet Jim, and really wanted to impress him. It seems like for about the first 10, 12 years I knew Jim, every time we'd do something together, I would do something to like win him over, and I feel at the end of the night he'd be like, "Oh man, he's pretty good. That guy's pretty good." And then next time I see him, it'll be like I start all over again. So that's how I felt. Anyways, but then we connected doing I was, they hired my studio to do a album with Charlie Owen. He was a great singer from the Bay Area. Jim was the producer. I was the engineer, and we worked together on that. We had a, we had a good experience working together. You know, and we had a little hissy fit with each other, which was good to get that out of the way. And and um after that, um the thing that really kind of spurred it on was um Jim had the idea for Little Village Foundation after he didn't play with Robert Cray anymore, and and he wanted to do something different, and basically he had the idea to have a record label, but have it be a nonprofit organization. Because realistically, the chances that you're going to make money having a record label in 2020 or whatever year it is or was, are pretty slim anyway. It's about up there with I'm going to start a video store, but uh, but his idea is it's all based on donations. They do, and we just help great artists that aren't necessarily what Alligator or somebody a profit-based record label. If you got to make money off
Right.
your artists and their CD, you need people who sell a lot of CDs, people who can tour and hustle and all that stuff
Right. Right.
before that I hate. I mean, I like touring. I'm playing, but
Sure.
uh, uh, and there's a lot of artists that are like incredible artists, but they're not going to be in that game, So a regular record label that would, was just they would just lose money on these guys. Little Village is like, yeah, we're gonna lose, we can lose money. As a matter of fact, we don't take any money for like, if a Little Village record, you know, sells 20 million copies, uh, that's all the artist's money. That's we
Yes,
don't
sir.
have and they
Yes,
own
sir.
everything, and Little Village pays for the production creation. That's where I come in, because I was doing stuff like that on my own ever since I first got a recording studio. I had um, like Finest Tasby.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
I played. I met him, and and I was like, he was just such a great singer. I mean, when he's, what like a real blues singer, I was just so magical playing with him, and he's so underappreciated. I told him, hey man, I got a studio. I have lots of friends to play. I'd love to make some music together. And it was just, that was the spirit. It wasn't like, um, and and my most rewarding stuff that I ever did was stuff that you did just because you love it, because not because, you know, um, you know, Hopping Hans is paying me to record his band. It's like I always had passion project. You got your stuff you got to do to pay the rent,
Sure.
and then you got your passion projects, which is what you live for. And I had quite a few of those, and then Jim had the brilliant, and he was able to put this whole thing together where basically a way for me to do my passion projects and still get paid for it.
Yes, sir.
um and because it's all from based on donations. And people like it, and they're donating, and it's working, and it's because of that. I mean, I've been able to do uh really so many things that I probably many of them I would have done anyways for free, because it's what I love. But thank God, like Jim he's smarter than me, and you know he found a way where we can do stuff like that, and we don't have to eat Vienna sausage and day old used spam. So,
Right. So, kid, I have to ask you, man. I need to address this album that you worked on recently. That new album by Sean Mac McDonald, Have Mercy.
oh yeah.
The first time I heard that album, and I'm from the heart, man, I remember telling my friends if you close your eyes, it reminded me of Sun Studios, 1956. Am I close to what you were going for?
Well, absolutely. I mean, he's a throwback. I a few years ago, I think I started seeing him on Facebook, and uh I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I mean, we've you know you get so tired of hearing, but it's like it's the blues scene that we know anyways has been it's kind of like you know been dominated by kind of like white hippies, and and blues rock, and I mean, and I love all that stuff, but I didn't even dare hope that there would come a time where, like, man, there's a whole wave actually of
Yes.
young black kids,
Yes.
boys and girls,
Yep.
and who are really deeply getting into the legacy of the blues.
And they're making a statement that this is what they want to stick to,
Yeah, I mean,
and that's what's refreshing to me.
yeah, when I see a guy like when I saw Sean, man, I was like, you know, it was man, I feel like it was one of the few reasons to be to be happy to be living in this day and age. For me, just yeah, I mean, just I saw him, and I was just I I loved it right away. A few years ago when he's playing Pee Wee Crayton, BB King,
Wow.
old BB King stuff, and I mean, it was just, all this same stuff I was into when I was when I the world of blues open up to me, like, the old recorded blues,
Yep.
it's not necessarily what you would see at a blues festival, but it's this whole gold mine of incredible American art uh and just, yeah, there's the fact that it's like, and I've always maintained this. I've always said, you don't need to like dress it up like, I mean, the music of the originators, the music of Muddy Waters, uh, uh, and Skip James, and this stuff is so powerful. It's so powerful. Uh, Somebody's always going to find it and
Right.
be be attracted to it, and you don't have to you know do anything to it. I mean, you don't have to change it to make it cool. I mean, that's great too when it's, I love all the hybrids, and then you take the tradition and mix it with all your other influences. I love all that stuff, but it's just, I mean, it's just that confirmation that for one thing, music is so enduring, and it's going to live forever. But also to see DK Harrell and doing it, and Harrell Davenport, young Harrell. I'm just working
Oh
on
yeah.
his upcoming album right now, and Sean Mac. I mean, it's like, yeah, it really, it's really the most, it is currently, and probably will remain, my favorite thing going on the planet.
Yep. But
Right now.
and I wanted to ask you, I was going to ask you an off the cuff question here. Is DK Harrell the real deal? And I got a feeling I know the answer.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm wearing his T-shirt.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, I've interviewed him twice. I mean, I like the guy, and he really comes across as genuine. And I think that's
Yes,
something.
he's, yeah, he's got more than just, you know he's got more than most. He's got that um he's not just a great player, and then, I mean, there's lots of great players, and but he's got that thing, like BB. I mean, obviously he's, his was a to say BB King was a huge influence on him is kind of an understatement. But he's just got this great this man of the people kind of, I mean, when he gets up there, and this is even the music aside, I mean, like, people just root for him. You just,
Yeah.
and that's it's an amazing quality. I mean, he really it's not an act. He is actually a great actor, a great comedic actor, because he has me stitches sometimes doing different characters. But, but, but he is a very genuine, heartfelt guy, and I mean, I love him. I mean, I just
Yeah.
really, really. I mean, he sent me a message for my birthday that made me cry. Uh,
Oh.
yeah, I love, I love all these kids, but DK
Well,
is also, I would say he's the first one, of this wave, the new wave that we recorded at Little Village. Uh, he did the album The Right Man, and the other thing, when I talked to him before, I'd see him on Facebook, you know, some BB King tribute shows and young man. He's just of course, I mean, they're all very young and they're all they're they're a bunch of hard-headed little shits, and they think they know everything.
I'm a
Just like
father. I get it.
just like I used to be,
Yeah. Well, kid, I got it.
Oh, yes, go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, I don't want to miss this opportunity. I wanted to talk to you. There's a young
Well,
man.
let me just say, finish
Go
my
ahead.
thought.
Go
Well,
ahead.
when I first talked to DK before the first album, his hopes and dreams, his aspirations were so modest. You know, it was like, well, I'd really like to be able to, have a band where I can, pay the guys enough, like maybe 200 a night so they can, so they'll stay with me for a while, maybe we can do some festivals, I mean, his aspirations were so modest that this morning I wake up, he's in India. I've never been to India. I mean, he's, his trajectory is crazy. He's
Yeah.
like, he's taken off like a rocket ship. I mean, and I couldn't happen to a better guy. I mean, yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, I went and seen his show. His band is great. I went and seen him on the Blues Cruise, and everywhere I see DK, I'm like, I'm like, I feel like his dad or something because I'll be out in the audience and just, with tears in my eyes.
That's cool.
Because
That's cool.
I'm so proud of him.
Well, I've got a gentleman by the name of Vincent Hayes, who recorded some music back in the day. And he's a big fan of yours, and primarily because of a new album that you did by Tommy Castro called Closer to the Bone.
Oh yeah.
Vince wanted me to ask you a couple of questions regarding your recording technique. Specifically, he
All right.
mentioned the moody retro feel that you incorporated into this album, but he noted that it was done with subtlety and it really caught his attention. So he wanted me to ask you if this had been recorded to tape or was it direct to digital? And was the vibe something you planned on or did it just kind of happen organically?
Well, I when I first started, I had a tape machine, which I loved and used it for about two records. But no, I record digital now. I'm in Pro Tools, and there's no way I could have the same level of productivity, uh, unless I was doing it digitally, and I'm happy with that. Because this goes to the second question. Like again, it's like it's the vision. You got to have the vision. If you have the vision, it's you can record to a potato and then get
Can
your
I
point.
quote you on that?
Yeah, yeah, and get your get your point across. If you don't have the vision, you could I mean you can have like you know Ray Charles's personal tape recorder and so and it's not going to make any difference, any real difference. But yeah, I record digitally and I do many things in every process, to make it, you know, to give it the sound and feel of analog recording because I do love the sound of tape and analog recording and what
Yes,
happens.
sir.
So yeah, so I simulate that. I mean, I do use a lot of old microphones, two preamps, and also just the room. And I mean, it's really I really appreciate the things he's saying about the about the vibe and the moodiness of the the and it's it's deliberate. I And he also said subtlety, which is, I mean, that's true because Tommy, Tommy, first of all, the cool thing about that for me making that record is I know Tommy for a long time, and I know he's, I mean, people think of him as like a, like a, you know, yeah, you know, pop. Well, I mean, like a, like a, blue soul rock and blues singer, very commercial. I mean, he's a very good looking guy, and and he can get away with wearing a tight t-shirt, which that's good for him. But and he's popular, and so he's you think he's like on the more like I don't know, commercial poppy side or whatever. But I know Tommy, and I know him for a long time, and we have a lot of the same decrepit old Bay Area motherfuckers that raised us both. And the thing about Tommy is that he loves the blues. He's from the blues, he loves the blues. He just really loves that shit, and that's why he can. So I know he can do it, and I wanted to show that side of him. And I think if he, if next week Tommy Castro had no more tour bus, no more blues cruise, and he get to play every night at the saloon in North Beach and live upstairs, he would be happy. Yeah. So but at the same time, he is it. I don't want to, those kind of vibes, that kind of mood in this atmosphere, all that stuff I'm talking about. I always want that in there. That's a big part of the reason why I'm even doing this.
Right.
I want that stuff back. At the same time, I know I can't, if I go too far overboard with it, then people are going to think there's something wrong with your stereo. It's going to come out on Alligator, and they want stuff that sounds like commercially competitive, whatever you want to call it. So I really it's just about finding a balance.
Right.
And again, it's like I say, you got if you have the sound in your head, then then you can at least then you got a goal to work towards. And of course, the longer you do it, the more you do it, the more you learn, the easier it will be for you to get those sounds from your head and onto the
Sure.
tape or the hard drive now. And yeah, it's of course things can always change along the way, and they do all the time. Also, like to his point, and as sometimes you do kind of find the personality of a record, while you're making it, and not before, but it's some stuff will materialize, and you got to be open to that.
Yep. All right, kid, where can we send people to learn more about you? Maybe purchase some of those fantastic albums you've worked on, or maybe book Rick Estrin and the Nightcats for a gig. We'll put all the appropriate links out there for you, sir.
Well, that's those are Little Village Foundation. That's that's so much of the music that I work on. It's with Little Village and facilitated, I mean, they really made it possible for me to, have a very, a career, with working with artists that I really love, and just,
Sure.
So yeah, littlevillagefoundation.com. I think it is. And also, and if you want to see me play and with a really great band and my best friends, then the rickestrin.com, Rick Estrin and the Nightcats. I saw Rick in 1998 in Oslo. It was the first concert I went to after I moved to Oslo. It was at the Oslo Blues Club, because like I said,
cool.
I'm from a small town, and Oslo is the only city in Norway you can be a musician even. First show I saw was Rick Estrin and the Little Charlie and the Nightcats with June Gore on drums and Rick Estrin. And I remember looking at the guy and goes, man, I would sure love to be in a band like that. I didn't think I could be in that band because they seemed pretty attached to Little Charlie on the guitar. but as it worked out, Rick's been playing for 15 years, and
That's so
I love
cool.
it. He's I just I could do a whole nother show just talking about him, man. Rick is one of the best human beings. Nah, maybe the best. Just besides being, what everybody knows about him, he's just also has the biggest heart, and he's he's like the first Little Village record was me and Rick after we met Willie Walker and heard Willie Walker and heard his story and heard this amazing singer and who wasn't doing anything, and me and Rick were gonna, we were just gonna do it. We're gonna make this album. We're gonna if we have to pay for it, whatever. It's because it needs to be done. It has this which we got to follow our hearts and thank God during the making of that album is when Jim got involved. He was playing on it, and then he starts telling me about Little Village. That became the first Little Village album.
And I actually found a copy of that album. I have a copy on CD, and I am so proud to have that. It's really cool to look back at where Little Village started.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I could easily be the best music I've ever made. Right there. I mean, that's the really. Willie Walker was, he was really something special, man. He came, from somewhere else.
Yeah. Well, Kid Andersen, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you taking time to talk with me today on Time Signatures. Hopefully you guys will end up over here in Michigan soon, so I can get out to see y'all doing your thing. But thank you so much for coming on today.
Hey, my pleasure. My pleasure. Great talking to you, man. And you seem like a wonderful cat.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Stick around for a minute. Let me tie the ribbons on, and I'll say goodbye appropriately to you. As this episode comes to a close, please allow me to tell you about the Little Village Foundation. Little Village is a 501c3 nonprofit record company that seeks to shine the light of awareness on musicians who might not otherwise be heard, and in doing so, further the belief that a life filled with diverse music builds empathy, making for a stronger community and a better world. Jim Pugh and his team, including this gentleman right here, work together with musicians of many genres, and there's no doubt that you've heard many of their different types of music out there generated by this incredible organization, from Candace Ivory to Curtis Delgado, even up the line to Sean McDonald and more. They have all worked with them. To make a tax-deductible donation today, because that's how they run this business, please visit littlevillagefoundation.com and look for the donation button on the top right of the homepage. And as always, thank you so much for your consideration. And that wraps up this edition of Time Signatures. Once again, my thanks to our guest, Christoffer Kid Andersen, but also to you, for without you, none of this would be possible. Jim Ervin reminding you, keeping the blues alive is everyone's responsibility, but preserving the history of the blues one story at a time, that's my mission. Until next time, so long, everybody.
This has been Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan. For more information on cabs, visit capitalareablues.org. You can find this episode and past episodes at lccconnect.org. The Time Signatures theme song, Michigan Roads, is used by permission and was written by Root Doctor, featuring Freddie Cunningham.
I'm trying, baby, driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
Until next time, keep on keeping the blues alive.